Here, I welcome you on March 30th to Gaia's Zoom room. Joan, thank you for joining me here.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
and thank you very much for the question about last night's seminar
Yeah.
or lesson. Glen Anderson is doing a series of workshops that he
Hmm.
has presented over a number of years. He's been working in the nonviolent communication
Hmm.
field for way more than 20 years. Um, and um, um, that is what I came into his course for, not realizing the extent of his experience and the focus of the class.
Hmm.
And so, what I've found out is it has to do more than picking your words.
Hmm.
Um, it has a lot to do with creating a movement, which is, I have to admit it, it's outside of my.
Basic.
Yeah, I ain't gonna. I never thought of doing something like that. I mean, oh man, um, because what you have to do when you do something intentionally is
Hmm.
you actually have to make a plan.
Yeah.
I'm not a planner. Don't know what I'm
Well,
doing.
actually, that's not true. And you know it because you have a plan for OGs.
But I'm not the planner.
You, I know that Gaia is the foundation, but you are the one in whose body Gaia is working through.
But Gaia works through all of us.
Yes, yes, but who came up with OGs?
Yeah, I know. And so I had the yeah, the it came in through me. Okay. Uh,
That's cool because you're the one who speaks.
yeah, and I'm finding out that there is more to life than the happy unplanner that I was, because apparently.
Well, we could come up with another word than being planner. In a sense, although the word might be a little bit tough on you right now, but you are co-creating with Gaia,
But we all are. This is
right?
that's not a big stretch for me. It
I
might
know,
be
I know,
for others.
I know.
Yeah, and maybe that's the important part. It's all easy for me to be a co-creator with Gaia.
To help
Uh,
others. That's what our
and
Heart Gardens is all about.
mm, you're right. It, there's a very good reason I've got you, Joan. We need other perspectives so that we can see it from a different point of view,
Hmm.
so that we can consider the possibilities.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I keep saying, that I am going to be put in the proper position in order to do the work that I came here to do. And then I find myself in a nonviolent communications workshop on how to map a movement.
There you go.
And so what I told them was, I'm not a planner, but it seems that I might need your skills, and so I'm listening, and I'm glad to be here, and let's have some fun. I'm not sure that the gentlemen were quite well ready for me, but
Well, that's why you were sent there.
yeah, yeah. And it was really nice because Leo was there from the
Oh,
After Chat group from Humanity
nice.
Rising. Yeah, so um, I haven't had a chance yet, but I really want to talk to him about what we talked about.
Hmm.
And, they're talking about movements like, the um, nuclear um, nuclear power plants and the climate crisis, and talking about Black Lives Matter and other like movements of that sort. The big political stuff, and it's like I'm not political.
Well, it doesn't have to be political.
I know it doesn't have to be political. And I'm, as I'm listening to what he's explaining, and there's this cycle that he's talking about, that,
Hmm.
there's 8 different stages that a movement goes through. And he's talking about, having to uh, justify, to people, to convince them that what you say is valid. It's like, oh, I don't have to do any of that. There's not much to, that, you know, and yet to focus the words. And that's what I really, it's like, it's really important what you say, so that you can focus the attention of people on the value of what we are creating. It's like everybody knows that the systems are falling apart, and our food are not necessarily going to be found in the supermarkets.
Right. Right.
And yet you need to remind them of that as you're going into the, I'm not going to use justification of the reasons why our heart gardens are so important in our communities,
Mhm.
starting yesterday. And there's a lot of places that are already started. And what I see needed is the interconnection of those different kinds of places.
For sure.
In,
They need to
in,
know about each other.
they need to know about each other. That's the network
Yeah.
that is part of the idea.
That's what
The
makes the movement. Ask Arlo Guthrie. He'll tell you.
He would, oh yes, he would. Yay, Arlo. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so what I'm considering to, and I'm also thinking about the website, Joan.
Hmm. Yeah.
How do we go about setting up the website in order to support the idea of a movement? Um,
I
and
think it's
is that what I'm trying to do? But it does kind of spur an idea. Oh, it's sparking.
within any, I think, like let's just look at, for instance, we use YouTube to get across to people the things that we're hoping other people can benefit from. In order to do that in your YouTube thing, you have a show more area, which gives a list of other places that are working in the same direction, and people can visit them. So that's where they fit in. If you're, using YouTube, let's say, even on the website, many websites have other um, links to other kinds of groups that are working with this in the same direction. So that's where it comes in, you
Uh,
know.
I do have, I have an announcement. Yeah. Stan has created the Other Networks page
Okay.
for for Our Heart Gardens, and he has included members of uh, Our Heart Gardens.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and I put you in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And he and Julie are
Oh,
also on there.
good.
And so,
Good.
yeah, I feel a little bit more established.
When you start off with even a small group, it gets bigger.
Yeah, and Kevin is back from the island and studying all winter, and so the Butler Urban Heart Garden is going to be run again by him.
Oh,
Oh
that's
yeah,
interesting.
and
Good.
Chris took care of the garden over the winter, and so it is ready. And you know, there's no um, reparations that need to be made to the
Mm-hmm.
land at this point. It's ready for
Good.
planting. And
Good.
so, yeah, that's exciting. And he asked in his um, announcement that um, he's coming back, he asked for a letter of reference. And so I sent a reply back with a glowing report,
Mm-hmm.
endorsement of him and the garden. And he asked me how I wanted to sign it. And I used Our Heart Gardens.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. And
Man.
so it does feel like it is getting a little, feeling a little like it's getting a little more attention. And how to um, formulate the website so that it supports the concept as well as presenting these recordings
Mm-hmm.
and the outreach and the members and all of these things. I've got work to do and conceptualizing to do, and I know it will. Uh, with attention, it will get better.
It always does.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of my focuses, and of
Good.
course, yeah,
That's a
and of
good
course,
focus.
Kevin is going to come back and he's going to want me to spend time in the garden. So there's going to be my mornings. So the Humanity Rising after chat is may be less attended than I have over the past,
Well, as I was
since May
looking
of
at,
last year.
when I was looking at one of your readings, it kind of suggested that there are things that will be left behind from the point of view of you won't be as active in them, and perhaps eventually, because you get so invested in what you really want to do, that becomes something that you know regardless of anything, the negative part of it can be pushed away because the idea was about peace, and that's the only thing that needs to come with you from there, not the disturbing parts, but the parts that were really
The parts
important.
that were good were really good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And you learn from the lessons.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you don't, it's really not worth going through them.
Well, if you don't learn from a lesson, this is what I've learned about not learning from lessons, is they come back and you have to, you're
Okay.
like, what's that doing back in my life? And it's like, well, you didn't learn it last time. So, like, duh, learn it again, give it a cookie. But it's true. I mean, we get a chance over and over again when something needs to be readjusted, that we thought we were doing it in a specific way and it kind of didn't work. Doesn't mean that it was wrong. It means that it just needs to be readjusted. And you are given the opportunity all the time. And when you don't see that popping up as often, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I figured it out.
Yay!
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, I am really glad to have the Peace Lab. See,
Hmm.
I didn't have a lot to do with Peace Lab. I
Well, you
had a
did
lot
work
to,
on it.
I did a lot on the challenge, on the steps challenge.
Isn't that what the Peace Lab is?
No, the Peace Lab was, that was part of it. The
Well, it was the
Peace Lab also,
challenges.
yeah, and it also included the 5 days on Humanity
Yeah,
Rising.
but two parts. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and it was quite good, uh,
yeah,
in all ways, and that one person had her knickers in a twist. I'm
good way to
sorry
put
about
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
yeah,
Um, and I hope that the future holds reconciliation and good things for both of us, all of us.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But so there I am thinking about how to make a movement.
So let's talk about what you learned in the class about making a movement.
Well, that's a really good question. He sent a whole bunch of handouts,
Uh-huh.
and the handouts included what he called the MAP. I'm going to search.
Sounds like a map to me.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Um, so I just want to have a look at that. Um, see if these are down at the bottom. Yeah, MAP, the 8 stages of the movement action plan.
Okay, that's good to have steps.
Yeah, so there's stage one,
Mm-hmm.
which is normal times, which is basically no conflict. Stage two is when you realize that there is a problem and nobody seems to be noticing it, but it really needs to be addressed from your position. You feel it really needs to be addressed. So we go to stage two, which is prove the failure of institutions.
Now, how do you do that?
Well, um, it depends on what movement we're talking about. And if we
Right,
were talking about the Our Heart Gardens movement,
right.
we would have to talk about fossil fuels and
Mm-hmm.
all of the money we spend on moving food from place to place.
Right.
We would have to talk about the inefficient distribution of resources. Um, we
Have
would
you
have,
made a list of all of this?
no,
But we're recording it, so now you have a list.
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We would have to talk also about um, not just the distribution being difficult, it's also the inaccessibility of food to um, the destitute, the people
Right.
on the streets,
Mm-hmm.
the failure of the institutions. All we have to do is look at tent cities and
Yeah.
ah the breakdown of so many systems.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot depend on the systems anymore because the failure of them is so clearly evident in our
Yeah.
world. So then we go on to stage three, which is ripening conditions. And
Ripening. Okay.
ripening conditions. Before a
Ripening.
movement can take off into stage four, the groundwork must be laid in stage three.
Ah.
Historical and social forces underway may help ripen the time for change on this issue. If conditions get worse, more people can be recruited to get active. Now, this is already happening. People are already responding to the need for food by
Yeah.
growing food in their own gardens, by
Hmm.
um, renting a plot down at the local community garden. They are um, volunteering at their local food bank. People are becoming aware that something has to be done. This is worrisome. So, in order to get the social movement to take off,
Yeah.
often it's a shocking and highly publicized trigger event that bursts into the news, and suddenly everyone recognizes that a long ignored social problem exists. The trigger event, like we're talking about George Floyd, the I can't breathe,
Right, right,
and
right.
all of these um, trigger events that have happened. Um, it's followed by a nonviolent action campaign, typically including big rallies and civil disobedience. Now, I'd rather just have us all just go to the garden, but we don't have the gardens yet, and we don't have them networked yet. And so there are gardens already,
Hmm.
and to have people from those gardens talk about their food security, their sovereignty
Hmm.
in and comfort of living in community, knowing that they got somebody at their back and at each shoulder, and
Hmm.
they're working together. Um, this is what I believe will help this movement take off. People
I think,
talking from the security uh, to the people who don't have security and to the people who hold the power right now.
right.
And,
And if individual people, well, what I was going to say was,
mm,
I think what would be important um, with other gardens is to look at the fact that most other gardens are outside. So in the winter, there's nothing. And this is where our heart gardens comes in because it's inside. And so when the winter starts to move in, our heart gardens is already working and people can start, I mean, bringing in what they're doing outside to the inside. And that's kind of where it begins because they hadn't thought about doing it inside, that kind of thing. And that, while yes, you need to get a repurposed building or something like that, it generally is not about the powers that have those buildings once they're repurposed. They belong to the people who have the gardens.
yeah, yeah. You remember? Do you remember that the Butler Heart Gardens got that $30,000
Hmm.
grant?
Yes, and they're going to
They're
have a
going to,
building.
yeah, they're going to have a greenhouse. It's not
Hmm.
a repurposed building, but I'm not going to
It
get
doesn't
attached to
matter if
that.
it's repurposed or not.
Yeah,
It's a place that you can have year round.
that's the point, and even in the winter, they're can not only do they are they able to grow food, they're
Hmm.
also be able to start food for planting outdoors.
Hmm.
And so
Absolutely.
this is a huge opportunity from my
Hmm.
point of view.
Yeah.
Um, so stage 4 is the social movement takeoff, and uh, they break these down into looking at it from the different points of view of the opposition and from power holders, public goals, pitfalls, and then a conclusion. And the next stage is stage 5. So I don't want to go into stage 5 yet. I want to talk about stage 4 a little bit more. The social movement takeoff. Under opposition, what he has put in here is a dramatic nonviolent action campaign immediately after the trigger event shows a new social movement has been born. Nonviolent actions are dramatic and exciting, keep the public spotlight on the problem, expose the power holders' hypocrisy in actually violating the public's interests and values, and create a social and political crisis for the power holders. Nonviolent actions are dramatic, exciting, and clearly support society's interests, values, symbols, myths, and traditions. Strategies must elicit public sympathy. They create dilemmas for power holders who can't simply repress them and can't allow them to prevail. Local communities nationwide may repeat these actions. New local groups spring up in a tidal wave of strong new grassroots activism.
So let me ask a question.
Sure.
In the domain of gardens inside and the movement of the gardens inside, what do you think would be the trigger that you talked about from that? Because, you know, we're talking from the point of view of creating, co-creating, you know, a garden where people don't have to starve in the winter or stay outside in the winter.
Right.
So what is the trigger that would allow the next, you know, the movements to start to blend?
I would like to think that it could be a positive action rather than a trigger action that
That's what I
is
was wondering.
um, that would be, you know, they closed another tent city and bust 350,000 people, or I don't know, a whole bunch of
Yeah.
people. I mean, this is no longer a trigger event. We have heard it and heard it and heard it, and it breaks our heart each time, but it's not a trigger event.
But it is in some respect. The whole thing,
What
there's a
I see,
difference
what
between,
I got an idea.
go ahead.
The trigger event could be the dealing of it differently. The dealing of it in a nonviolent way
Right.
instead of dishoming them, giving them a home.
Exactly. This is what I was trying to sort of look at. The whole idea is really what our heart gardens focus is on is giving people who are homeless a place and a job and food, and helping those who
I
are
I want to change a word in there. Let's not
mhm.
talk about a job. Let's perhaps use the word
Well,
purpose.
yeah, a purpose. Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at
Yeah.
is that this is uh, this is the whole thing that will bring people together. You know, a lot of people can say, "Oh, gee, I feel so bad for the homeless," and they don't do anything. What do you do when you feel bad for the homeless? You create a place where the homeless can be. not under the auspices of the power of political blah blah, but under the auspices of people who care and are willing to come together, and people who have been gardening, willing to bring in the information they have, the abilities and skills they have to help teach and create this most important thing.
Um, I know that humanity can make amazing changes. We did it when COVID first hit. We,
Oh, over this past year, gosh,
oh my God, yes, apparently we can change.
we had to, or we would all be dead. It's
No, I
really
don't
the
know. Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right because the flood of people hitting our hospitals would have broken the
yeah,
hospitals, which would have made it impossible to get medical help of any
exactly.
kind,
Hmm.
and that would be horrible. And
In
so
fact,
I
perhaps,
believe that we have done the best we could in a really
yeah,
bad situation.
it still is.
And we need to find a way to go forward that enables us to live with dignity and respect for each other
Yeah,
and
absolutely. But
and
we are
respect for our
working.
parent, our
We
great
are,
mother who gives us this experience.
yeah. But we are working globally to emerge from this pandemic so that people can work and do the things that are important, and that people aren't losing their jobs constantly because of this unfortunate
Yeah.
weird time that we're living in.
Because of this catalyst for change that Gaia has given us, or the
Hmm.
spirit has given us. I'm not going to put the blame on Gaia. I mean, we are all expressions of the one source.
Yeah, to me, Gaia is the one source.
With
That's how I see it. That's just
and
my,
that's good.
yeah,
I just go back
because
to
that's
even
nature.
before her
Yeah.
because
Well,
she is a manifestation in this reality, and I
but she
see we're
may have
all
been,
manifestations.
yeah, she may have been part of what came before.
I think she is still a part of it. And
Well,
she
not
was a part of it before
we're just
humanity came along.
aware of it now.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting there.
Yes.
Yay.
But
Um,
that's important to kind of work toward um awareness, making people aware that the possibility exists that people don't have to starve and that people don't have to be homeless. And that's what our Heart Gardens is all about.
that this new social experiment
Hmm.
is unfolding, and that's the trigger event that I envision
Hmm.
would actually make the difference.
Yeah.
And yet I also know that the Peace Lab um, was told that often um, peace initiatives end up falling apart with no peace after the initiative is over.
But
And
that isn't always true.
no, it's not always true.
So yeah, we
I could
can.
let that go. I could let that
Yes,
go. Yeah.
that's what the death card was all about.
Oh, good point.
Letting it go.
Yeah, I gotta let that
Yeah, it was the only upright card in that reading.
go. Let it go, girl.
Yeah,
There are good things growing from
transformation.
transformation is happening. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I really like the idea of a positive trigger. What I also see is that there's an awful lot of positive change out there.
Mm.
And so, how do we make it from another positive thing that happened into a positive trigger? How do we make it be a trigger as opposed to just another nice thing that happens?
So in the class, their recommendation was,
I didn't ask that
well, it does. Are those people still available?
question. And that is, I didn't come up with this idea of a positive trigger until tonight.
Well,
So this
it's
is
being
something
recorded.
yeah, I gotta take that back to class and find
Hmm.
out. It's stage 5. It's
Hmm.
identity crisis of powerlessness. So I'm
Mental
going to
health,
read
the
this.
mental health
Yeah,
uh,
I just want to read
type of
this.
things.
Let's
Hmm.
find out. After 1 or 2 years, the high hopes of takeoff can turn to despair if activists feel frustrated that they have not yet won the final victory. Ironically, the movement has made enormous progress and is on the path to victory, but the road is longer than people might assume during the high energy and high hopes of the takeoff stage 4. Better work at stage 4 can help activists skip stage 5 and move directly to stage 6. So it doesn't, the movement doesn't have to stagnate. It doesn't have to
Yeah, yeah.
slide into an identity crisis and powerlessness.
And perhaps, when a
Mhm.
person is beginning to feel like they're sliding into that place, speak up, have a meeting, talk with other people. Because what most people don't do is communicate. And if someone is thinking, oh, this, I don't know, I don't know if I see this working, talk. That's what is the other part of our heart gardens, is giving a place to have conversation, just like here in the conversation.
In the conversation.cc.
Exactly.
Yeah. The conversation, communication is
Yeah,
vital. I love that word,
absolutely.
vital.
It is.
It has to do with life.
Hmm.
And yes, often it is the communication that um, that is it changes tenor. It instead of being about the exciting things that have happened, it starts becoming about, oh well, nothing's happening.
Or
And
this
so
is
they
falling
just
apart.
slide down, yeah, or this is falling apart, or oh, there's some of that happening, and so the you can hear it in the voices,
Hmm.
and so we need to ensure that that feeling is counteracted by other communication that is uplifting. And
Hmm.
I see the social argonauts as being important ambassadors for that
Hmm.
aspect, bringing in people from online talking about their process and what they've done,
Hmm.
um, celebrating the wins of other gardens, and the 40-pound cabbage that Katie's Crops brought in. Katie's Crops was on Humanity Rising day before yesterday,
Hmm.
and what an amazing young woman she is. When she was 9 years old, she came home with a cabbage seedling, and she put it in her garden, and she had heard that the people next door, that a deer had come and eaten their roses or something. And so she built a little cage around the cabbage seedling so no deer would come and eat it. And she watered it every day and she weeded around it and it became her project. And this was really neat. And by the end of the growing season, she had a 40-pound cabbage. And at 9 years old, this was true magic.
Yeah.
And so she took it down. Her parents took her down to the local food bank and said, here, this should feed a few people. And they had her cook with them. And she fed something like 200 people on this 40-pound cabbage. And she was thrilled. It changed her life. And she is now, you know, she's part of the movement. And she's not the only one. The movement is already happening.
Yeah.
But like Paul Hawkins said, we don't see ourselves. Nobody has held up a great big mirror and said, look at yourselves, see how powerful you are. You right next door to so-and-so, and you're just down the road from so-and-so. And if you get online, we can start talking about these things. Excuse me a moment.
Yeah. You coffee?
Yeah. So that was an amazing,
Yeah.
actually, Humanity Rising. It was, I want to go there. Just a second. I want to duplicate that tab. Because I want to tell you about that episode of Humanity Rising. Humanity Rising was 2 days ago, I believe. And they talked about spreading smiles. Spreading a smile on the streets is what they called it. And this site can't be reached. Reload, just a second. Okay. Interviews of everyday people who were inspired and put compassion into action in practical ways for the homeless and those in need, with the intention of easing suffering on the streets. Here are 4 amazing projects that not only raise collective heart coherence, but also create bridges between people, breaking down myths regarding the homeless and allowing a story of compassion and cooperation to emerge within their communities and beyond. The first one was Nadia Perez, who lives in France, where she writes, translates, and edits, as well as hosting science workshops for children and growing a permaculture garden. She's long been involved in the environmental movement with organizations such as the Transition Network and 350.org, with the intention of participating in the acceleration of human evolution towards a more caring, sustainable, and peaceful world. Katie Stagliano is founder of Katie's Crops, a not-for-profit organization with a mission to start and maintain vegetable gardens of all sizes and donate the harvest to help feed people in need, as well as inspire others to do the same. She was really quite amazing. Norman McGilvery is originally from the UK. His background has seen him work in the automotive industry for Jaguar and Land Rover. In Australia, Norm has worked in industry, government, and the not-for-profit sectors. He is challenging conventional thinking to address the massive social issue of homelessness in Australia as he looks to implement his version through Bed Down. We believe everyone deserves a bed to sleep in. There was Daunia Mebtool as the founder of a Solidarity Fridge, which is a fridge placed in front of a shop restaurant or organization to which anyone can bring food or serve themselves freely.
Oh, that's nice.
It's an act of sharing, creating social ties, and fighting against food waste. The association Les Frigos Solidaires, Solidarity Fridges, was created in 2017 by Daunia Mebtoul, a young Parisian restaurateur. Today, there are more than 60 fridges across France, helping more than 1,000 people a day.
Mm.
Good for her. I while I love the idea of the fridge, but you know, I really I would prefer to pay for my meals so that somebody will come and bring it to me. I like to be served, and it's just so nice to sit gently in a dining atmosphere. And so I'm grateful that she didn't give up her restaurant in order to do this, but found a way to use the leftovers and
Right.
the meals that don't get eaten.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So the last two, I thought they had a wonderful idea. They're founders of Orange Sky Laundry. In October of 2014, two best mates had a crazy idea to put two washing machines and two dryers in the back of a van to wash and dry clothes for free. Nicholas Marchesi and Lucas Patchett awarded the 2016 Young Australians of the Year and recently the Order of Australia Medal, founded Orange Sky, a world first free mobile laundry and shower service for people experiencing homelessness now, supporting thousands of people every week. You know,
Cool.
I just love this. This is so inspiring. I also love that the Our Heart Gardens idea had laundries already involved in that. It was part of the idea. We got to have laundries, and we've got to
Sure.
have baths, and we've
Mm-hmm.
got to have places where people can put their feet up, um, maybe even have a nap, maybe even live. I don't know. Each Our Heart Gardens, each OGs is going to be different
True.
because it's based on the needs of the people where they are and the resources that are available where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to have to bring in some, uh, hydroponics perhaps, and plastic sheeting and cement board and the experts who know how to create places like this. But each one will serve the needs of their communities based on the people that are already there and the needs of the people that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's the challenge. And with an idea to run with and the backing of governments and NGOs and schools and um, people who are already secure.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is something that we can take on joyfully and as efficiently as we have embraced the challenge of COVID.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, we
This
have
is a
had to
challenge.
change. Yeah,
This is a challenge that's been around for longer than the length of just a pandemic. This has been around for ever
yeah.
in our species. Um, the problem of
Well,
people.
at least 3,000 years, if not five
Yeah,
and more.
exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is that this is not a new thing. It's something that's been around, and there are people trying to help, and if it's possible to get all of these incredible little ideas to all of to the global, you know, inform like make a like you know how was it? I'm trying to. Was it Bruce who was making this little uh, thing to have all the information in one place and have it available to everybody? You know, that'd be kind of thing. You know, that Bruce would be like, you know, his type of thing would be an information thing. If you need something, you come here, and we can tell you how to, you know, what's going on and how it started and how to get it started, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The greatest part of our technological universe is that we can reach so much further than we've ever been able to do, ever. And that's what's important. Social Facebooky type things are not what's really needed. What's really needed are places, you know, somebody will have to come up with a really, really good way to say it, but you know, like the helpful uh, movement, you know.
But Stan calls it the age of helpfulness.
Yeah, Paul at Alice's restaurant. No.
I love the idea of the age of helpfulness. You know,
Yeah,
it's like compassion is all well and good, but it's not action oriented. Helpfulness is action oriented based on listening. Because if you haven't listened, you don't
but
know
it
how to help.
includes compassion, though.
And it includes compassion.
Right. Because I
Absolutely.
just recently became part of a group like a day or so ago, which is the Dharma um, rights for animals.
Nice.
It's about obviously people not eating meat.
Mm.
It's that kind of thing. And not killing animals for any reason or anybody, whether it's our species of animals or the poor species of animals that are out there that our species has decided they don't count, but they do. And that's what the Dharma animal rights thing is all about. And it just, when I read it, when I sat there reading it, I bought a book. It's called The Compassion, The Great Compassion, which is why the word compassion struck me. Um, and it's about um, the Buddhist movement to literally don't harm any living beings, any if for any reason anywhere, you know, that kind of thing. So I just kind of thought, you know what, I don't go on to places too much. You know, I come here. This is where everything's happening. But I'm trying to remember exactly where it was that it was not within, it was not in um, like Facebook, but they actually have their own website. So that's really cool. And it's very exciting because it's about respecting the lives of all.
Yeah.
We all matter. Every single living being matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think of the difference that happened in Yellowstone Park when they brought the wolves back,
Mm-hmm.
and how important they were to the ecosystem. Um, they the deer weren't too terribly happy when the wolves first came, um, and because they were fat and lazy, basically. And that changed, and and they got healthier, the ones that survived. Um, and I'm, you know, the the cycle of life is important, and it I think it's really important that we become more aware of our uh, place in the cycle of life, and give
It's
back
not
some
at the top.
bodies. Give back our bodies to allow the resources to go back into the
Yes.
system.
Yes.
This is where we have removed ourselves from nature, but we are part of
Mm-hmm.
nature.
Absolutely.
And I
So many people don't get that. Oh my gosh, it's weird.
what do they think we are?
Well, see, they don't think they're animals. This is the problem. They look at the
Really?
idea of animals as being other than humans. Humans are animals,
I know.
and they don't get it. It's like, really? You don't understand that, like, you're part of, like, the whole
You
system.
eat and yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have hormones that make you do weird things.
Yeah.
These are the animal
Yeah,
parts of you.
that's exactly right. And it's almost like they dislike that about, that's why they don't recognize it in themselves.
Oh, they want to refuse to have that part, and it's like, I'm sorry, it's not optional.
Yeah. You wouldn't be born if you didn't have that part, if your parents didn't have that part. Your
Yeah,
children wouldn't be born if you didn't have that part.
yeah.
It's just very strange.
It is very strange. And so we move on a movement in order to allow this to become
Hmm.
part of the conversation, because we get into conversation when we get into community.
Yeah.
And if we're not a part of the community, we end up telling ourselves stories.
Hmm.
And the stories that we tell us ourselves commonly are not as positive as they could be,
Or even accurate.
or even accurate. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
out and out wrong a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And
But there's always an opportunity to turn it around.
well, there is an opportunity when you get into conversations.
Hmm.
And you listen to one person, and then you listen to another person, and you listen to all the people in your little circle, and then you talk about what everybody said, and you guys make a decision.
And you
um,
find other people also who are talking about very similar type things, and you reach out to them,
yeah, yeah,
you
and
know?
and maybe they had something similar going on in their
Yeah.
life, and maybe they succeeded
And
where you're still in the questioning stage.
yeah, the thing about a movement is how do we, how do people become friends? Well, they meet someone who has something in common. Oh, yeah, I love that too, kind of thing. And so that's what you do is like you reach out to someone that you read about, like, the little girl with the cabbage seed, and she's become, this amazing person. And you reach out and you say, you have inspired me so much with your story and with how your life has evolved. And I would like to hope that we can all become part of a singular family that's global and share with each other the things that we don't all know.
I oh, I just had a flashback from working at the city and
Mhm.
going through the research and of who would I want to tell about certain things,
Mhm.
and the amount of data that is involved in a movement is just mind blowing. And so I need to not think about how big it is. I need to think differently. And I
And
haven't quite yet
again,
figured out how that is, but
usually within a group, if it's a smoothly running group, there are people who will be able to do one thing that another person is busy doing something else that they do well. It's about finding those that are capable within the circle of doing things that other people don't know how to do yet. Um, and within the process of these people coming in and doing their job, some of the other people in it who have an interest can learn. So it's this complete revolutionary doing, everybody's learning. And those people who, you know, like coming up with grand ideas, and like you had this experience in your life, you share. That's the whole idea of our heart gardens, just sharing. And I know that's what you know. um, and the way to do it is to put it out there.
yeah, you're right.
And for those people who are like, yeah, I'm not so interested, okay, fine,
Yeah.
you continue to move on to other people.
And truly, I'm this isn't something for everybody. I understand that. There's
Yeah,
still going to be people who buy their produce instead of coming
sure.
and working at the gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the ways of the produce going out the door
Mm-hmm.
is by
Yeah,
sales. And yes, we
yeah,
do have to have a store. But there's an awful lot of the produce that's just going to go out the door with the in the bags of the people who come and work there.
yeah,
And there's going to be the restaurants in on site
yeah,
where people learn how to present the beautiful food that they've
that they've
grown.
grown. Mm-hmm.
And it's just yeah, okay. So let's talk about stage 7, okay?
Ooh,
Because
seven.
stage 7 is success.
Stage seven
Success.
is room number 7. That's why you chose it. I know you did.
It's true. It's every day. The more sevens, the better.
Yeah.
Except when they're in tarot. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
it's always means work. And so in Glen's work, stage 7 is success.
Mm-hmm.
Stage 7 begins when a new social consensus turns the tide of power against the power holders and begins an endgame process leading to the movement's success. The stage 7 process can take the form of either a dramatic showdown stemming from a new trigger event, a quiet showdown in which power holders realize they have lost and launch a face-saving victorious retreat in which they claim victory even though they are yielding, or attrition, which is a long, perhaps decades long, process in which the social and political machinery slowly evolves new policies and conditions. In any of these three forms, even when the endgame process starts, success is not guaranteed. So stage 7 does involve continuous struggle. Now, when I read that and think about the OGs movement, um, I don't see any negative in it, and I don't see a struggle in any of it, because what I see is people realizing, oh, they're having fun over there. They have abundance over there. Gee, maybe I should go over there.
Mhm.
There, there is no, there's no struggle in that.
The only possible thing is, and this just kind of, it popped into my head, so I have to kind of put it
Good.
together. It's not really struggle so much as the ability to maintain the building that will house everyone, and without using ways that are detrimental to the environment. So my mind flashed on those windmills, and that would be something that would should be brought in to power the buildings, or
Uh,
however that works. I mean, I know those things are
the
there, and
turbines,
yeah,
the,
I don't know what they're
they're
called. I
called
just know they
turbines.
go around.
Yeah, it's a windmill or a turbine.
Yeah, I thought of a windmill, but yeah, but things like that, something that's natural, something also like solar. The building repurposed with solar, and this would be something that would come in from those people whose companies are willing to
To work with
get
us.
a gift in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
what that reminds me now, I'm not crazy about the turbines,
I don't know very much about them.
and
I'm
and
just
that's
they just came into my head.
and it is a way. It's not the way I would prefer, but and I don't know the science, so that's
Hmm.
just I'm speaking from my space of not knowing.
Hmm.
But I'm also speaking from the position of the of knowledge about the green power machine that
Hmm.
was created by Michael, couldn't have been Freeman, um,
I don't know.
Michael Smith. I think it
Michael
was
Smith.
Michael Smith, and that is a closed system using algae and it and the methane and the burning creates biochar, and it creates heat for greenhouses, and uh, there there's a lot to learn in it, but what he talks about is that green power machine enabling a clean creation of fuel, food, and um, fertilizer.
Hmm.
And so it seems like um, a no brainer to include his invention into some, at least, our heart gardens.
Hmm.
Uh, because we are going to have power that is not on the grid.
Right. And
Uh,
again, the solar thing is also something that can come in. I mean, it's possible, to find clean ways that doesn't harm the environment, whatever they are. And there may be still in the future, and they'll come in. But meanwhile, you find the ones that to be the closest to no harm. Harm, you know, do what ye will, but harm none, is the pagan thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I just kind of like, that was just something that struck my head when you were talking about that there are ways to keep the places going without causing pollution, without causing whatever. And we find out what those are because there are places in the world that work with stuff that we, I mean, sitting in my little chair right now, I don't know all those places or what they are, but there are places. People have been working with it. I suspect, and I could be wrong, but that Scandinavia probably has a lot of stuff like that,
Yeah. Finland.
and we could learn from.
They've got a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff. It's
Yeah.
really quite exciting what's going on in Europe.
Yeah.
They have a Humanity Rising coming up that's talking about Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow or the next day.
And you've been to Rotterdam.
It was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was.
And that was a repurposed building.
It was a repurposed building. Of course, we couldn't do anything to the building, so we kind of got stuck and
no, but,
high
but you
centered.
had the sense of being able to use something that otherwise would have either been torn down or just sat there as a big
monolith to
sore
nothing.
thumb or something.
Yeah, and it provided space for people, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of lessons got learned, I think, in that struggle, and it was a struggle, and that's one of those things I think that I'm going to have to get my head around, is that it does take struggle to change things.
Maybe we could come up with a word that doesn't sound difficult, like struggle. But there's got to be a synonym for the word struggle that doesn't sound like it's battering rams or something.
Yeah, really. Oh gosh.
I'm sorry, hang on just a second.
Okay.
Alex said the word challenge.
Thank you for listening, Alex.
Which is exactly what you were working on.
Oh yeah, more challenges.
But the word challenge is really much more gracious than the word struggle.
It's actually the word of choice, because challenge, from my point of view, has to do with throwing your heart over first and following it, and there is not so much guarding of oneself that happens when you address a struggle. There's instead you're into it. A challenge is, I'm going to do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole thing of the Peace Lab and challenges was something for you to go in and to sit and to see, the things about yourself that need to perhaps be adjusted, and to really look back at how your life has been, and to understand that even the difficult times led to where you are right now. And if you're doing pretty good right now, that means those difficult times are part of the process.
Kind of validates all of the pain and
isn't it
stuff
like
that
birth?
happened. It is like
birth.
Yeah. You
painful,
survived all that so you could be here now.
It was painful in the process, but look at the growth. Look at the
outcome.
The blooming. Yeah.
We have bluebells.
Do you? Oh, you know what we're getting? And it's coming out for Cynthia.
Oh, how
The
lovely.
beauty of the
The
bushes
vibrance of the
just
yellow.
starting to get, you know, a couple of days ago it was just starting to get that greenness. Now when the sun shines on it, there's a yellowness coming out. Ah, it's wonderful because it's been fairly warm. We're gonna have a cold front, and we're having maybe, I don't know if we're gonna get it, maybe not, hopefully not, snow.
Mm.
But to see it out there, you look out there in the morning and you're this smile, you know what you're talking about, the smiles, the smile comes on your face like it's like, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's such a thrilling time when we come out of the cold and go into the warm.
Yeah. And we have waited for this for so long, and it's
Yeah,
been so cold in so many ways.
right. And also come out of the dark and go into the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about stage 8.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Continuing the struggle,
The challenge.
meeting the challenge.
The challenge.
Achieving stage 7 success is not the end. It is a basis for continuing the challenge and creating some new beginnings. In the opposition, he's got 4 points. Celebrate success and our role in it.
Mm-hmm.
Follow up through national and local organizations to make sure the new promises, laws, and policies are actually carried out. Be alert to a backlash that might reverse the new gains and resist the backlash. Focus attention and efforts to achieve other demands that are probably at earlier map stages. And 4 is be alert to new social consciousness, issues, and movements that emerged during this movement. Go beyond reform to more fundamental structural change by empowering people to become lifelong social change agents, not just one issue protesters, creating ongoing grassroots political organizations and networks, broadening and deepening the analysis, issues, and goals of movements, and proposing new alternatives in worldviews or paradigms that advance new political and social systems, not just oppose symptoms.
I think that speaks of the aces, ace of water, ace of fire, ace of earth, ace of air. It speaks of new challenges, new beginnings. That's where the aces come in.
Yeah, and when they're in reverse, it is a struggle to um, to have that new beginning happen. And so I would say that this step 8 is the reverse of the aces. It's the making sure that you don't slide back in to the, 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 the goblin mud.
I think it's important, perhaps, and this is not a new thing at all, but it's important to always have communication. So, and I'm not talking about when it's difficult, I'm talking about that you meet on a regular basis, which you well know, because you've been doing that or had been doing that and you're going off in another direction, you know. But always be meeting and checking to make sure everything is, you know, if something needs to be adjusted and stuff like that. The air, the element of air is so important to be able to get the element of fire working, because that's why the element is air, is in the east and the dawn, because it's the dawn
Yeah,
of new worlds, new thoughts, new ways.
yeah, yeah. And
I love how tarot fits in.
well, tarot is where we met. So if we didn't bring in tarot examples,
Mhm.
it just wouldn't be us.
It wouldn't.
And there's, well, it's, tarot is archetypes, and absolutely everything in our lives is
Mhm.
imagined in one way or another throughout all of the cards.
Yeah.
Um, I've been astounded at the depth and practicality of the messages that I've got
Mhm.
through the tarot. It's been really quite amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not that I always understand what's been
How can
suggested,
you
and how
always
could we?
understand?
You know,
You look at a card sometimes and you're like, what? Huh? That's how I am.
yeah.
There are certain cards, doesn't matter which way they're sitting, or upright or upside down, that just are kind of like, oh, get this. But that's just, this. There are certain areas, and it might be important for people to look at the areas that sort of don't make sense to them. They don't quite, sort of like figure out, oh, why did that come up just now? Yeah.
What I've uh, been kind of amused by, um, there have been times when I've considered pulling cards, and what I've um, done instead is gone through the questions that I could ask and the cards that might come up, and decided that no, I don't need to be told one way or another. I can make this decision on my own.
I've thought about that. Yes, we can all make decisions on our own. However, there's something very magical about pulling a card and just a reading that I did not so long ago, where the cards that came up were just unbelievable. I was like, are you kidding? Yes. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. Oh, did you see that? It's like this ecstasy
Yeah,
vibe.
it's when you feel seen by spirit.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, and how amazing is that? Oh,
Very.
I know what you're talking about, Joan.
Yeah.
And
I know you do.
and truly, the amazing perceptiveness that, it shouldn't be a surprise, because, I believe this,
Hmm.
but it's
But it
still
still
just,
is.
how could it be? But it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just in some situations, or in some way, I'm not quite sure the words to use. It is realizing that you are connected to that higher realm.
and that higher realm is connected to the
To you?
cards.
Yes. Well, that's what it
Not
is.
just me, it's the cards.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
how could you pick you pick that
You picked that
card?
one? Really? You thought that? Oh, it's an epiphany.
It's amazing how beautiful the messages can be, how comforting, and how empowered one becomes in
Yeah.
making decisions. And truly, there are no wrong decisions,
No.
but man, there are long decisions.
Well,
and I
at times, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you know,
It's
always.
about learning. It's
Yeah.
about,
And there are some times when you can avoid situations like
mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
And if you can get a little bit of a clue from spirit through a card,
yeah,
well, you're richer by far.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am primarily an intuitive reader, but I will go in and look at the book to see if I have, if anything pops out, if a word pops out that could fit nicely into the puzzle that I'm working on. Because I have a tendency to, it's like when I see in anything a picture of something, and it's not really there, but somehow or other, like that happened today with Alex. We were looking at something, and there was this little teeny tiny white, almost like it was like soap or something, and it was like a little tiny kitten rolled up. It was just, that's what how my mind works. I see things, I see faces and things when the summer is here. The faces that I see in the trees are like, the green man is with me, the green woman is with me. Yeah. Fernandez is with me. Yes, yes.
The imagination is, I think the most beautiful
Mm,
gift,
I
and
agree.
everybody's been given an
Hmm.
imagination. May
Yeah.
not know how to use it, uh, but I mean, that was Einstein's superpower, was his imagination.
Mm.
And I would have to say that all inventors
Have
share
imagination.
that imagination,
Oh,
that talent.
absolutely.
How else?
Which means
Everything that was ever created was
these
created through
movements,
imagination. But,
these movements have imagination.
well, you have to imagine.
Yes.
You have to. Uh,
John Lennon was the one who sang about it.
yeah,
And
imagine all the things.
every single word in that is so inspiring.
Yeah, yeah,
That kind of thing. Imagine. And that's why tarot is so amazing,
yeah.
because it helps us sometimes to imagine when we're sitting in the house and we're thinking, geez, I'm in a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
What can I imagine to make it different, to make it less challenging?
Less struggle and more challenge.
To just make it different.
Yeah, and we do have to find ways to
Mhm.
help each other through this. And
That's
we can't do it from behind four walls.
no,
Um,
no.
and remembering that because you're wearing a mask doesn't mean that allows you to get closer than 6 feet from somebody else.
Depends on the kind of mask they're wearing,
Yeah,
and if they're wearing a mask.
there's something that I wanted to share with you,
Okay.
and it has to do with movement of the body.
Uh-huh.
So
Ooh,
I'm just going to move back a little from the camera.
okay.
And so here we are. And
Yeah.
what it is it's a greeting between people of like mind.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what I have come up with is your body and your arms become the circle, like the peace sign. So grab one, no, grab your elbow.
Okay.
So your
I,
body is the circle. So grab one elbow,
okay.
and yes, your other hand comes up onto your shoulder. You're right.
Okay.
Now that one on your shoulder, tuck 2 fingers under, so you have 3 up top, and up against your shoulder inside the circle. Because what you're doing is you're creating a peace sign on your shoulder inside that circle.
Oh, cool.
So,
Yeah.
so there's there's the circle, or the peace sign part of the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is greeting. It's a namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Oh, geez.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
Yes.
man. I
And
really,
then when you leave and you're ready to say goodnight, you say, "May the gardens be with you."
may the gardens be with you in every way, shape, and form.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm working on this one. I'm trying to learn it so that it's easy and yeah. So it's kind of looks kind of like what do you call it? An ET hand.
An ET hand.
ET hand. Phone home.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Oh.
Come in.
Oh, home.
God, I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah.
So yeah. So thank you very much for playing with me.
Oh, that's fun. Yes.
Well, this is what I'm hoping for. We gotta find the ways for fun.
Oh, hey, Alex and we
I
live
know. You're
in a fun
right
house.
there.
I tell you. And he's over there laughing like that. Yes, you are. We do. We live in a fun house.
I know you do. I'm living
Yeah.
in the wrong place, man. I want to come along.
We
No,
play all day long. I mean, we do have to work. That's true. But we work together. That's important.
yeah.
You know, where he is in the kitchen with me when I'm in the kitchen. You know, that kind of thing. It's and eating is so much fun because we watch these shows that we're having much fun with, and Cappy is with us. He sits
Sock
alone.
monkey.
Yeah, my sock monkey. And then we have our object game, which is so much fun. And we just every day, you know, Alex is the quote king. And so he'll make a quote and then I'll have to guess what he's quoting from.
Oh,
Now, a lot of the times it's a matter of, you know, say, well, give me an obscure clue. So then you get to, you know, figure it out.
oh, so it's like a puzzle.
It's always like a puzzle.
So what
Which
was
is,
today's?
did we have any, oh, sorry, you're eating. Okay. Did we have any quote games today? Other than the ones that were in, oh, not yet.
Not yet. Oh, I
Not
like
yet.
that answer. That's a good question. Good answer.
Oh, yeah, because it could happen all through 24 hours in our sleep.
Oh no. Actually, it's I think it's come time when I would like to close the recording. And so I would like to thank you very much, Joan, for being a part of this. It has been truly, truly fun. And I look forward to mapping out a movement with you.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a fun movement.
Yes.
And I envision success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I am so happy to be here. It is thrilling.
I'm
Truly,
so,
truly. Yeah.
this is the fun part.
It is. This is the fun part.